Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us this evening from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Gregor Watson. We warmly welcome the family of Flying Officer David John Sandell, whose story will be told shortly. We also warmly welcome Air Commodore retired Peter McDermott, National Director of the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, would you please stand and join in singing the national anthem?
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Those requiring a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer David John Sandell. David Sandell was born on the 9th of September 1923 in Goulburn, New South Wales, the son of Frederick and Lorna Sandell. Frederick Sandell was a clothing manufacturer based in Goulburn and a prominent member of the local Chamber of Commerce. However, after the factory closed during the Great Depression, the family moved to Sydney, where David grew up with his brothers Ronald and Frederick and his sister Patricia. After completing his schooling, he worked as a junior shoe salesman at Marcus Clark & Co, a department store where his brothers also worked. Ronald as a salesman and Frederick as an advertising assistant. Ronald enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force in May 1941, and Frederick followed suit barely a month later. But David was not yet 18 years old and was too young to enlist. In June 1942, the following year, David, who had turned 18, followed in his brother's footsteps by enlisting in the RAAF. After initial training and elementary flying training school, David Sandell embarked for overseas service. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined the Royal Air Force Squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. Sandell was first sent to Canada, where he attended flying training school in Ioma, Ontario. After receiving his wings and being made pilot officer, he travelled to the United Kingdom, joining an advanced training unit in South Cerney, and then an operational training unit in Lichfield. On the 20th of April 1943, David's brother Ronald died when his aircraft crashed in Tunisia. Ronald was just 22 years old. David continued training. After being appointed to a commission in July 1943, he was posted to number 467 Squadron on the 16th of August 1944. 467 Squadron was formed at Scampton in the United Kingdom, intended as an Australian squadron. Although the majority of personnel were originally British, towards the end of the war, the squadron became mostly Australian. Equipped with Avro Lancaster heavy bombers and forming part of 5 Group, RAF Bomber Command, the squadron's operational focus for much of the war was the strategic bombing offensive against Germany. Bombing was almost entirely by night. 467 Squadron participated in all of the major campaigns of the offensive. On the 29th of August 1944, after less than a fortnight with his new squadron, Sandell was the pilot of a Lancaster tasked with attacking Königsberg, a port city in the southeastern corner of the Baltic Sea. Nothing was heard from Sandell or the other crew members after their takeoff from RAF Waddington. Frederick Sandell would be the only one of the 3 brothers to return home after joining the RAAF, being discharged on compassionate grounds in July 1945. Today, David Sandell's name is listed on the Runnymede Memorial on the banks of the Thames in England, which commemorates more than 20,000 airmen and women with no known grave who were lost in the Second World War during operations from bases in the United Kingdom and North and Western Europe. David Sandell's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer David John Sandell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.